Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Thanks for being part of the family at all the locations. Evolutionary, which has 2 strikes on it at the moment. That's why we shifted all videos besides this one over to private, so they couldn't give us another strike immediately. And it takes 90 days for strikes to go away, but we should be able to post in another week or two, depending on how they do this. These are the 2 that were removed. As you can see, terms and policies. Yeah, the last 2 that we did. And what was it talking about? It was talking about the realization that people are leaving the planet in big numbers really fast, and it's overwhelmingly pointing towards a certain conclusion, but you're not allowed to talk about it openly on YT. Again, we thank you guys for being part of this family in all 3 places, and also over on Patreon, where we have a few new patrons that we want to thank.
Definitely want to thank you guys, Starseed, Mick Ferris, MDW, and Susan Kiefer. You guys, thank you so much. You're helping us rebuild and reestablish and, do something, hopefully giving back more.
Absolutely. So over on Patreon, there'll be some Patreon-only material that goes up over there that will be unique and only put up over there for the Patreons that are supporting the efforts to get out information about how to survive these times, what's really going on, the big picture. And I thought this is a good place to start. Look at this ingenious little pop-up area where this young man can go and just observe the ants. He has a little ant farm. Okay, guys, there was a group out there that had a hit song called Smooth Criminal. What was the name of that group? I love it when you guys get these things. Yeah, so I just wanted to give you some pictures to just let sit into your conscious mind as we jump on over to this first piece of news here. Google test AI tool that's able to write news articles. Can we see where this is going? By the way, Google's parent company is Alphabet, and YT is also under that umbrella. And it's so fascinating to see. I mean, it's even in Family Ties, as there were 2 sisters that were connecting YT and Google through marriage. Yes, all in the family. It's always all in the family. And we've also talked about the fact that the vast majority of the presidents have been somehow related. And of course, the argument that will be put up by Snopes and others is, well, you go back far enough, we're all related to Adam and Eve, right? Yeah, no. No, and the reality is no, too. See, our history is totally not what we think it is. It's been completely rewritten to suit the paradigm that is given to us by the control group.
So convenient, because no matter what goes on in the news now, there's not going to be any one person that can be held accountable. No, this is something, it's all automated. They've been going down this road for a very long time. So this is definitely something that's not surprising, but definitely noted as far as time goes. When we're talking about time, we look for markers in time, and that's how we understand where are we in this yuga cycle, and all this information kind of helps us. Since there is no time, this helps give us an idea where we are.
Yes, so ultimately, the ultimate Satan is AI, the ultimate adversary to humanity, to the earth, and to life itself. That's the big reveal. And so, you might be looking at this thinking AI is something new. No, AI is ancient because, again, humans didn't create this AI. This AI was created by a race of beings older than humans and not even on this density. But here you go. AI is going to write the news articles. Google is testing a product that uses artificial intelligence technology to produce news stories, pitching it to organizations like the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. On and on. The reality is all these are tied together. Who was it yesterday that was? Dane Wigington was talking about the fact that there's black goo in the rain samples that they're finding everywhere. Yeah, that black goo is everywhere, and that black goo is AI. I mean, again, it's another tool of the AI grid to penetrate all of us in every way possible. We are electromagnetic beings that are being altered electromagnetically with the hopes of complete control through electromagnetic means. New York City subway using AI to track fare evasion. So again, everything that you see going on over in the fine dining ware country is coming to everybody that stays in the system, and it's going to be tough for everybody to get used to not being in the system, or if you are going to stay in the system, having absolutely no rights at all. There will be no rights given again. Look back to the Sumerian stories of why they say humanity was created as a slave race, according to those stories. Japan to deploy pre-crime style behavior detection technology. Wait a minute, there was a movie. Wasn't there a movie? Was it that movie? Was it Richard Gere in this one, or was it Mel Gibson? I forget what it was, but it was about pre-crime. And people, knock on the door. You're under arrest. For what? Nothing yet. But you're going to do something in the future, so we got to arrest you now.
And a lot of people, you can measure what their energy bodies are actually capable of through technologies now. So it's really, they can give people certain harassments, and they can even use other people to harass people and give them a hard time, only for your energy body being activated, or for you to have the ability to see past the BS.
Absolutely. So, again, pre-crime, and again, it's going to be AI that figures this out, who is at risk, right? If you're a dissenter in any way, shape, or form, I guess you're a pre-criminal according to this. Doesn't that seem like that's what we're talking about? And if you think it's a new power structure, as we see Xi and Kissinger meeting, old buddies. Oh, they're getting nostalgic about the time they were hiking the Himalayas backwards in 40 yards of snow, just like, number 46. Yeah, nostalgia, old friend, because it's all the same system. The system doesn't really change. The agendas change, and especially when you get to the end of a yuga, then everything gets crazy and chaotic, and that's what's happening right now. Belarus to hold exercises with Wagner near NATO member Poland's border. Oh, is that just a coincidence? No, it's not. And Lindsey Graham tweeted something saying, Wagner's going to sit out this fight. And Lindsey Graham is another one that's so deeply entrenched. Yeah, he's on the right, but doesn't make him right. Not at all. He's part of the power structure, just like McCain was, just like so many others. The ones that are deeply entrenched seem to spend decades in these places. It was just like this in the Roman Senate. I mean, literally, fathers would groom their sons to become senators because it was all in the family. It's always been all in the family. Even when they don't seem to have any relations, or even if they just seem to come out of nowhere, like, where did Barrio come from? Really. No, they're always waiting in the wings for their chance to shine and get the spotlight, and again, be one of the top puppets being mastered. But here you have, it's an obvious thing. What's coming next is bringing the rest of Europe and direct confrontation with NATO. Not that there hasn't already been. There's been so many mercenaries and volunteers fighting on both sides. And it does boggle the mind how people cannot see through this. It's just so obvious and apparent. They sell us patriotism. They sell us patriotism. Aren't you a patriot? When you go back and you look at those posters from World War I and World War II, you know, all patriots, come now, do your civic duty. And then you recognize things like, you know, sinking of Lusitania, driving Archduke Ferdinand down the wrong street on purpose so he could be taken out, and, you know, all these FFs to create the conditions that will enable the war to happen, which creates profits for the military-industrial complex and also leads to new laws coming in, which are always taking away whatever we have and consolidating the power in the hands of the few, all the while keeping a certain number of humans on the planet. And once we get to a certain point in time, you know, there has to be a big big one. You guys get what we're talking about. We're trying to confuse AI because it's really not that smart. You know, again, it doesn't really have emotions. It can't read emotions. It doesn't understand emotions at all. That's part of the thing it'll never get. As we see the Swedish embassy in Baghdad burned as Iraqis storm compound over planned Koran burning. Again, they utilize the religions that they give us in many ways. You know, when we look to, say, the founding of Mormonism, Joseph Smith had a vision. And he saw, you know, angels, the angel Moroni, right? But again, what did he really see? Was he seeing the same entities that Hitler saw and spoke with? Again, beings that look very Pleiadian. And Cindy has called some the fallen Pleiadians.
Mm-hmm. You know, that just came out, you know, from the time when I started receiving this information. It just sort of fell out that way, because there are beings that were in a very good position, but sometimes things change and you're unable to hold a certain position for various reasons, and people turn and do things differently. You know, they might do things in a little darker way because it suits their needs. It's what they need to do to fulfill. And, you know, maybe in some ways it's just part of who they are and they just can't help it.
So again, when we see the founding of these religions, these are all, for the most part, these are guided by the control system. And we go back to 1871 and Albert Pike, 33rd degree Mason, Confederate general, talking about their plans for 3 world wars. Absolutely. And then, you know, again, the politics is another, as we had MTG whipping out HB photos of him in his birthday suit and doing, you know, doing things. Yeah, you know, and then again, immediately the left is showing photos of her boyfriend that she was with when she was married. So, you know, yeah, you know, you have to recognize it's always been the system playing us against each other. Always, always, always. The housing market, only 1% of U.S. homes have changed hands in 2023, the lowest on record. Now, we got 7% mortgages over here. I think 6% is what the UK is around. And, you know, obviously that's going to slow things down. This is not about anything other than exactly what the few has said. Owning nothing. They don't want us owning homes. And, you know, of course, we don't really own our home if we have a mortgage on it. And if we own it outright, but you're still paying $10,000, $20,000 a year in taxes on it of some sort, do you really own it? And if you're going to have to pay those taxes and try to be out of the system, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. And again, that's kind of like why we went to a place where The taxes are virtually nothing. And the thoughts are, pay it in advance, or at least be in an area that may not go along with the power structure, because again, the big revealing is happening, and more people are waking up to what's going on. And as they try to herd us into the mega cities, the smart cities, 15-minute cities, the cell cities, whatever you want to call them, there are going to be those that will simply not go along and will retreat into the countryside, the woods, the forest, do their own thing, live simply, come together in small groups, small communities, support each other, and make their way. The technology is the entrapment, and part of that is making us lazy, very, very physically lazy. And, again, that's part of what's happening. And they've also made us, for the most part, very, very unhealthy and unfit with our lifestyle, and also the food and the water and the air. As as we've been talking about, and everybody knows, the wildfires and whatever else is in the air, that the wildfires themselves are kind of covering up, is making it tough to breathe for a lot of people, causing a lot of allergies, causing a lot of respiratory issues, also causing even more autoimmune dysfunction, just like the Neanderthals before us, just like the Denisovans before us. We're facing an extinction level event here.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing it so slow and so methodical. It is really quite concerning, and that's why we have to do what we can. Our best defense really is our immune system, to be able to bounce back from these things, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I'm looking at this thing where they're having a lot of people they work from home so that they can support themselves, which is wonderful because we get to spend more time with family. But that's also an added issue when it comes to control, because if you don't give them all the information that they want and desire, they might just cut that ability to work from home. And it's about baby stepping there. So we have to recognize that and make sure we're getting ourselves in a position where we're not reliant on that system.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that people are coming to grips with, at least some, the fact that change can happen rapidly. Science has always been telling us things happens over millions of years. Don't worry. What you're looking at there, that erosion, like the Grand Canyon, happened over millions and millions of years. When we see these ancient maps, though, we gotta really think some change happens really quick, potentially very, very quick. The famous Piri Reis map from 1513, that shows the coastline of Antarctica not being covered in ice, and does an interesting job. One of the things that we've done a video on before as well was the island of California, which we're going to talk about. But how about this one? I mean, this shows a cyclops, for one. Why would they show cyclops? Because what else do we see here? Oh, well, we see crowns. I guess these are talking about different kingdoms. Yes, see, yeah, it's in Latin. Kingdoms. Wow, lots of trees there. Libya? What? Trees? Libya? Forest. Look at these rivers everywhere. Look at these lakes. So Jimmy over at Brightside did a fabulous Bright Insight. Is it Bright Insight? Bright Insight, I think. He did a fabulous video again, talking about this map and some other things. This is, again, 500 years old, and this is Africa with, rivers and lakes and green, where we don't have rivers and lakes and green today. So this map is 500 years old. Logical assumption is it was taken from an older map. And Cindy did get that. That's probably what happened with this as well from the guides. But the reality is that it's not that this transpired like, the Sahara. is massive. It is so massive, and it has such a apparent lack of life in it right now. But we know it was a very fertile area in the past. As you know, there are many maps that show drastic changes in the earth, but have a memory of times when times were completely different. Climates were completely different. And the topography was very, very different. It's fascinating to see these things. This one over here is a map showing the island of California. Now it's fascinating. 1700, we had the Great Cascadian Quake, a 9.0, they say. Now, you know, if it's anything like the USGS, maybe it was more like a 9.5. Maybe it was even higher. I mean, how high was it? We don't know. But what's fascinating is, as far as I know, every map I've looked at that's pre-1700 shows California as an island. And we've talked about this. And it was actually ruled by a woman. And a woman that, if we were to look at her, we might say she seems to be of African descent. But that's all part of a distortion as well. Oh, yeah. The world that we know is constantly changing, constantly being rewritten. As we're looking at another map right here, it shows again the island of California. The island of California. And these span hundreds of years, 1500, 16 something. But when you get up to 1700 and older, then we start seeing California as part of North America and not an island. Was it just a mistake? Well, there's even accounts of traveling the coastline and it being an island, describing it as an island. Were they just going up Baja and thinking that was an island, all the way up to Canada? Well, how about the giants? We find multiple maps that show average-looking people with giants, and this is in Patagonia, so this is in South America. It's not just one, and the thing is, they're friendly. They're friendly giants. They're very human, and they do have 2 eyes. They appear to be maybe 10 feet tall or so, somewhere around that, maybe 9 to 12 feet tall. And they're friendly, and they trade, and they talk. They communicate, and you can see the baby is probably 3 to 4 foot long. Yeah, they seem to live simply. They seem to be nice. And here you see a European colonist. Again, our history is not what we are told. And you could go into the Bible and find time and time again when the mighty ones, again, as everything that's translated in the modern Bibles as God or Lord really translates differently. It's either translating as Elohim in the plural. Again, mighty ones is the oldest reference we have in the plural. And again, there's time and time again where that entity or entities get irritated with humanity, and they send plagues, they send pestilences, they send funny-looking clouds, and all of a sudden 70,000 people die. Yeah, that's part of your great reveal here. They can cause earthquakes, they can cause floods, they can cause fires, they can cause famine. And when we look to some of the ruins that predate Homo sapiens even, certainly Homo sapiens having the technology to do big construction and also to mine. Again, South Africa is known for its mines. And there have been so many mines found in South Africa that are hundreds of thousands of years old. They weren't being mined by Homo sapiens. Who was mining these ancient mines in South Africa? Yeah, again, it's just more indication going back to that first things we were looking at. And, are we truly? Are we the ants? Are we the ants? Are we the cattle? Are we the chickens? Are we the sheep?
It's a very fair question.
Yeah, I think the answer is pretty obvious. In the Kali Yuga and in the early part of the ascending Bronze Age, the latter part of the descending Bronze Age, the answer to that is very, very ominous and very, very obvious. What are we to do? Well, he's just heading out to the lake. He's going to have himself a good old time. And, this guy has learned from his human masters on how you enjoy yourself. And, again, the inhuman control grid that's here as well, they do enjoy themselves too. And this is not the way it is all the time. We might be looking at being under this dark control grid for maybe, what would you say, maybe 1/6 of the time? Something about that, I would say.
Right around there, I think so.
Yeah, so most of the time, it's not as dark as what we see right now. And the good news is the light of daylight and the end of this tyranny is coming. And this is why you see everything going on that you see. This is exactly why there seems to be a mad rush and a panic to lock down all that they possibly can. What they're doing right now is they're trying to close every gate. They're trying to herd humanity towards the gates that they want to open and get as much of their flock into as possible. And then they're just going to shut the door and they're going to wait, another long period of thousands of years until they can, again, try to assert control.
Mm-hmm. All the while when they're also putting information out that people are going to be extremely upset about, very angry about, and start to eat themselves from within if they don't understand how to channel these energies that are incoming.
It's about purging at this point in time. So we need to stay as clear as we can, stay as focused as we can, avoid anything that's going to lower your frequencies. Don't let your guard down. Again, you can glean some nuggets of wisdom from the BIBLE as well as, understand some of the control grid. And yeah, absolutely. This is that time period that is woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil, Satan, the adversary, comes down with great wrath because they know their time is short. So they're working like ranchers. They're working like, again, farmers that are herding their flock and trying to get the most out of their crop, whatever terms you want to use, and hang on to as many as possible, because the reality is the doors are opening for us. The doors are opening, and it's just going to be who sees the fact that the path is clear. And the path to freedom is not in the system. It is outside of the system, because the system is exactly that does entrap humanity.
Definitely.
As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.